Hello everyone and welcome along to another GRL podcast. This time we are going to be reviewing the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix under the lights in the desert for what is often a fantastic race around the Yas Marina circuit, especially with the changes that we have seen over the last couple of years. Of course, dramatic turn 5 where Verstappen, as you can see in the photo, overtook Hamilton in 2021, and turn 9 is bit of a melee. F2 had some fun there last season particularly, but if we have a look at where it sits in the calendar, it is round 8 of the season. We've done the first third, we're into the second third. It's that crux point of the season where you can really make or break your runs for the title. And of course, as with every week, I have the wonderful Atom joining alongside me. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on whenever we're recording this. Atom, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hello. Um, yeah, Abu Dhabi, definitely one of the better tracks. High speed, but also low speed in the final sector. Um, Different kinds of setups were used definitely by some drivers, as we could see, and divisions, and it could really depend on how low of downforce you can use around here and keep pace. But yeah, I mean, we started off as every week with the mixed race, and with a very competitive grid this time. I mean, we always have competitive grids, don't we? But
Oh yeah,
especially
definitely.
this week, it was very strong. Couple of Division One and Division Two drivers. I said, not saying that the others aren't fast, but yeah, those are like the cherry on the cake, aren't they? And yeah, this time it was Dan and Red Bull taking and scoring important points for it in the overall construction all week, as you might see later when you have a look at the other results. Alex Baba, after his win in Austria, picking up a P2 in the mixed race. So now for traffic for sure. And Rain on his mixed tier debut with a P3. From you, the best man on a two-stopper in P4. The medium softer with me in P5. Jakub P6, and we've got Edamuro in P7, who interestingly just a wrong Italian team. It was AlphaTauri for him, not the Ferrari he'll use in the upcoming weeks. Minico only P8, so his championship chances are slipping away slightly, but I think he'll come back even stronger than he was before. Chappers in P9, Browns the Buns in P10, rounding off the points with some high caliber drivers out of the points, like Lone Retreat. I think he had a spin. FSM, Team Sora, who had another little spin as well. And NV Alpha, where we expected him to get some solid points as well. So yeah, it was an interesting race. Top 5, I believe. And looking at the championship, to be honest, nothing really changed, did it? There are still leads from myself, Miniku, and Blade. Dan is now level with Blade, so he gained obviously with his race. It's pretty much the mixed tier wrapped up for this week. And I'm interested what happens next week at Hungary. Different to Abu Dhabi. I think that's it, to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And a mixed tier is always quite a lot of fun.
Yeah,
When it's a
yeah.
reverse grid with the championship, it's always fun to turn up to that. But yeah, I really am looking forward to talk over these F1 divisions, and let's crack on with Division 1. And in Div 1, it was Blade who took his first win of the season in Abu Dhabi. Aaron took P2 for the Alfa Romeo team, and Josh Gilly back on the podium after his time in Division 2. Michael and Sora, good result for Red Bull, and Kimi and B Ford again up there for Mercedes as well. Alex Webber partaking after round that your top 10. But it really was an interesting race. I mean, right until the last few laps, you really didn't know who was going to take it. Some fortune, of course, for Blade with the safety car confusion. Yeah, and in the end, it was him who came out on top. And if we look at the standings, what it's done is Blade has really shot up into P2 in the standings behind Sora now, only 21 points off of our championship leader. B Ford, Ninja and Rain slipped down a bit, but Michael ahead of Drowsy as well. Red Bull seemingly in control at the moment. I mean, but then again, it's only 14 points to Alfa Romeo, so we're just going to have to find out if that holds But yeah, it was a really interesting race, and as Abu Dhabi races go, maybe it wasn't exactly the best. But yeah, there was always excitement there, wasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the safety cars were held. I think it was like joined a bit late, obviously due to my own race, but um, yeah, it was close as expected in Abu Dhabi. But Blade really executed this race well because even though he looked quite dominant from the point he led, um, I think with that many safety cars and like stop and go racing down, especially on this grid, and really deliver. And to be honest, from the point he took the lead after Wesley and having some problems with the safety car, not really being on his speed, he really dominated. And yeah, my respect to Blade for that one because it was a really important. And our bets are still on it. He does that from now on. Streak.
Atom, be there? I think we've lost Atom, and I will try and
Know after almost 10 rounds how he does it. But yeah, Drazi dropped down. I don't know what happened to Drazi recently because he was leading the championship at one stage, and now he's down there in P7 and already has many points to gain on Sora especially. Team wise, it's Williams, Alfa Romeo, and Red Bull still very close. Alfa Romeo with a new team build, let's say. After Ninja and Gary are dropping out of the Alfa Romeo seats pretty much, so that's going to be interesting. Aaron also on his debut race getting a P2 after also qualifying on the front row. So great for him. And Josh Gilly, after a painful start to his D1 campaign in Austria, where he crashed, he gets a podium after starting 11th. So a big gainer here. And if I said, if you look at the championship again, Sora still controls it, but he didn't have one of those flawless races, let's say, this week. And the neutral spectators will hope that this continues into the next couple of rounds. So the championship will be back on soon.
Yeah, really well. And I'm looking forward to see how it develops, really, because I think we've got a few intriguing races. I mean, Hungary, Miami, these are really intriguing races, and it'll be interesting to see how they end up unfolding. But yes, let's move on to Division 2 then. So in Div 2, it was Slapbus who ended up coming out on top with the win. Atom came second, GSR absolutely everywhere, with Otto in third, Distant Bard in fourth, MS Thomas came home in fifth, Panosh in sixth, and Jackster in seventh. Of course, Alpine only team with two drivers in that top seven. Zeech came home 8th, Lloyd 9th. Surprisingly low, actually, based off his recent form. And then Torpern came home in the final points-paying position. And with the championship, it's just certified that Slapbus is leading by a long way here. Big margin of 66 points ahead of Distant Bard. Otto in third. Panosh moves ahead of Lloyd in fourth. But Slapbus is really asserting his dominance here, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the race results screen, you can see 3 times Ferrari, 3 times Slapbus in the last couple of rounds. He really walked it recently and has shown his pace, which has been massive for him. And yeah, everyone on the grid agrees that he's probably unbeatable as of yet, and also considering that half or 50% of the season already passed almost. And he's just too quick to gain that big amount of points. I mean, Distant Bard, Otto, Panos, Lloyd, and so on, including myself and Clever, are definitely quick drivers. I think they can all win races for sure. But Slapper just can do it consistently. And yeah, he's faultless this season. He makes no mistakes. Every time the correct strategy and the correct calls, considering overtakes or just sticking behind. Just a very smart driving, and you can see he's really pushing to get back into Division 1, which he got dropped from for this season. and seemingly he's not really enjoying our placements. So he has to do his talking on track, seemingly.
Yeah, he does. He really does. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Div 2 in the coming weeks, because I think it'll be one to really keep an eye out for, because Slapbus is up near the front, but doesn't mean he'll be winning every week, does it?
No, not really. Especially as we, this sounds probably a bit harsh, but we have this in Division Two, these one-hit wonders like Jax and Panos to just appear and say, "Yeah, no, I'm quick today. Let's win this race." So yeah. Also, Lloyd, he hasn't won a race yet. Same as Distant Bard, so I think that they will come as well this season. I think Clever, myself are probably are worth a shout at some stage if we get a bit lucky or Slappers is involved in some fair fights for sure. But yeah, I think the drivers are currently probably not the standings we have to look too much. It's probably more the drivers, because I think Alpine with Bard and Jackster have a stronger lineup than Ferrari with Slappers and Scaris right now. So I'm interested in that one, because Jackster, I'm pretty sure, will win at least 2 or 3 more races this season. And yeah, we have to see how this one evolves, especially in midfield. It's very close as well. So yeah, Div 2, you just can't predict it despite it being so competitive.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now let's have a look at the third division in GRL, and it was Jobbo who took the win, but it was a 2-3 for Aston Martin and a 4-5 for Red Bull, with Mango, Jezzy, Idealistic, and Ash Rainbow in that order. Efranazo took home P6, Croaky 7th, Smoking Cheese in 8th, SLR Ham took home 9th, Michael Massey 10th, but, Jobbo, another great result for him in the championship. Looking at the championship, that's the wrong championship, there you go, there's the right one. With Trappy moving up to Div 2, it's opening the door for Jobbo to plough on. He's now ahead of Luca B. AlphaTauri now joint with Haas at the top of the constructors as well. So it's a fantastic week for Jobbo and AlphaTauri, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's of course one of the 2 races this week which had only half points awarded, because we sadly had some desync in the lobby. Thanks to EA Sports for this little problem there. And it also concerned SLR Ham, who finished 9th, I believe, because Job apparently on his screen didn't see him and took him out during the safety car. So not very nice from him there, but not really much he can do. Just looks quite dramatic on stream, to be fair. But yeah, Jobbo drove a really good race. I mean, they had a late safety car and he pitted for soft and had to fight his BBC mate Wildy Mango and just got past. So there was a couple of nice fights there, and luckily everyone was on each other's screen, which definitely did help the racing for sure. But yeah, Trappy's gone, and Jobbo is taking the lead, especially with Luca not racing. So we obviously have to see what the SLR guys of Ham and Jam can do. But I think Jobbo is now in the prime seat for this championship, and I hope he can continue it, because I rate him as a driver. He's a very smart driver as well. So I think he definitely can grab that championship in Division 3.
Yeah, definitely, and I totally agree with you there. Div 4 then. Div 4's an interesting one to think about, isn't it? Because we've got... There is Rex who won in Div 4. Jacob Brown took P2, Ronnie P3 and Seb's P4. But again, not really any big gainers in the constructors as we saw in Div 3. Jamie Hops, Ricky Scorpion, Michelle, Craig Mitt and Erna round out the top 10. I mean, you found some lovely Leclerc images for this week for the Ferrari wins. But beside that, Rex moves closer to the top of the championship, and Hops, his teammate, Ham and Jam get overtaken. Of course, they are now gone from Div 4. It's a good result as well for Jacob Brown, who moved himself up into P9 with that podium. Haas as well. But look at the fight there with Haas, Alpine and Alfa Romeo. And then Red Bull and Mercedes scrapping over not being last. But at the moment, Ferrari do look quite dominant in Div 4, don't they?
Yeah, since the start of the season, Ferrari looked like the team to beat. Yeah, and Rex winning I'm very happy for him. He's also one of our new tier coordinators, so he might have an advantage with some host OP starts in the future, but we'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, he's the 7th winner in the 8th race this season in Division 4. So yeah, as we said the last 2 weeks, it's not really predictable. He won the race because of a penalty though of Jacob Brown, because he passed the car during safety car, and the appeal didn't quite work out in his favour. So he has to settle for second. And also Ronnie, first race in Division 4, immediately a podium, which is decent for him. And yeah, the championship's really hard to predict here. I mean, Jacob Brown recently seemed like the fastest driver, but he's to gain loads of points to especially Hobbs, who is the championship leader, but hasn't won a single race yet in almost around 8 that was. So yeah, very interesting for sure. Could be a challenger for the title without a race win. That would be something interesting for sure. Yeah, I think it's between those couple of drivers, like I said, Hobbs, Rex, potentially Andrew, Lewis, and Jacob. I believe. I think those are my bets on the title. And yeah, the constructors, Ferrari leading the way quite dominantly, but not too far. So if they have too much fighting going on, this might hurt them. As said, Division 4 also another race where he only had half points because there was some desync, and the Ferraris on the stream weren't very kind to each other. So I'm sure they want to avoid crashing into each other, because that would mean they'll invite everyone else back into the championship fight. And yeah, the midfield is, as said, mixed up as always. So I can't wait for the upcoming weeks, because especially these divisions could be very crucial for the overall constructor standings in the end.
100%, definitely. Overall constructor as well is arguably the most sought after title, as there's so many people that go into it. Everyone goes into it, so everyone wants to be a part of that, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how people are able to pick up points for their team overall, and who will come out on top in the end, because of course we're still nowhere near halfway through the season. So that's definitely something to consider. So then, Div 5 is next on the agenda, and it was Jakob who won in Abu Dhabi for the Alpine team. Maka came in P2, Lemon P3, Y2K in third, Minx and Atomic 5th and 6th for that Aston Martin team. Mashallah in P7, Duncan P8, Boosted RB, and Mexican Bob round out your top 10 in Div 5. And Div 5 is a championship. Oh, that again, sorry, I forget to press off. A Div 5 championship again is really interesting, because Jakob took the lead with that win ahead of Ronnie Rosary. But Maka is there as well. You've got your consistent drivers, Mashallah and Boosted RB, just need to pick up points in all the races. So you don't know where this one's going to go really, but McLaren continue to lead in the constructors, but Alpine do close that gap a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have to add that Ronnie was moved up a couple of rounds ago, and now the same curse, let's say, happened to Jakob. He now also got moved up because he was clearly the quickest in the last couple of rounds and didn't really have a challenger. He even won that race despite having a quali ban. I mean, I think that says enough about his pace. Yeah, he started from 17th and won the race by, I think, 10 seconds, which is, well, definitely not worth a Division 5 entrance in the next couple of races. But yeah, now it's the chance for Maka. The third one gets lucky. I'd say it's between him and the rest of the grid, because it's all very close. I mean, up top, Maka now has a 16-point gap, I believe, yeah, to Lemon, and Batsy another 18 behind. So we'll see. I think Division 5 is apparently one of our very, very clean divisions. So I'll be interested to follow them through for the next couple of rounds, because even though it seems like Maka and Lemon seem like they have it spaced out a bit, you never know what happens, because I know for a fact if Lemon has a problem, it is qualifying. He cannot get a quick lap together in quali. And you know, Maka had some connection issues recently as well, so if he misses out 1 or 2 races with that, this could bring the others back into the championship, which definitely would be very interesting, as I also think that Division 5 is one of those very important divisions considering the overall constructors battle. And also the constructors in Division 5 now, I think it's going to be interesting because McLaren and Alpine lost their most important drivers. Can Red Bull maybe gain with Maka, or will McLaren go away with the points of Lemon, or maybe Alfa Romeo because they got Batsy and Mashallah, who are very solid point scorers. So yeah, it's all to play for in Division 5, and I can't wait for it, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's one of those. I think it's one of the better championship fights in Div 5, isn't it? Really, and it's really heating up. Div 6. The penultimate division to look at is here, and it was GWA Panda who took the win, but look at that again. 10th Cannon, Dubs Gamer, Alpine 2-3. It's a great result for them in the championship. Echo in 4th, Ali in 5th, Azrael 6th, and Callum Ludlow and J-Tilb pick up 7th and 8th for Aston Martin, so it's an alright score for the team in green. T1 XLR in the house as well, picks up another couple of points, and Pat Pedder as well, so there's only 6 teams in the top 10 there. With 2 Red Bulls, 2 Astons, 2 Haas, and 2 Alpines. But looking at what it's done to the championship, I mean, Panda's really jumped up. Azrael and Echo don't seem to be, well, of course, you know, they'll obviously lose their ground, but it's a good result, as I mentioned, for Aston Martin. It's a good result for that Alpine team as well, because they move up closer to Haas and Mercedes. And it does feel like, especially the midfield in Div 6, is really heating up. It's really getting a lot closer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, we said in the last weeks the championship fight is the most important here because it's basically 2 people. It's Azrael and Echo. So yeah, gonna be interesting how that evolves, but definitely the midfield. It's all quite close. I think Flying Luge took a break for a couple of races for now, so he might lose a bit of ground. Aiska, I think, got a big penalty for next round. So yeah, Tran, I think, is a bit of inactivity creeping in as well for him. So it will be interesting. Maybe Panda, 10th Cannon, those guys can get away from the midfield, but also the guys down there below 10th, like if I add Dubs Gamer, Tax, Daniel Gamer, maybe they can get into those top 10 positions. But it's just so close. You couldn't even tell that like someone in P15 in the Division 6 championship could potentially be in the top 5 of the Division 5 championship because you cannot separate them. It's just so close between all those drivers. So it really depends on luck at some stage where you end up and what will happen to you at the race because it's so close. But yeah, obviously those midfield fights are probably a bit in the shadow, as said, of the big fight between Azrael, Echo, and potentially a 10th Cannon and Allium UTD with Panda with them if they can catch up. But yeah, I guess we have, as we say every week, I think, with Division 6, we have to wait what happens because, yeah, it's just this little splits in between. We don't know what will happen there. And yeah, gonna wait a week once again to say what happens there then.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. Then Div 7. Div 7's the final to come to. And it was Kieran who won again in here. MC Messi came home P2. And then it was MG823, P3, Marley, P4, Drizzy Rascal, 5th, and it's Bright. But Racing, Sparky, Wargasm, and Clips can round out your top 10. But yeah, great result for Kieran again. He really is pushing on forward towards J-Tilb at the top, and McLaren really are pushing forward as well. But again, good results there. You can see at the bottom they've all moved up, Drizzy, Marley, and MG into the top 10. But yeah, I think Div 7, the championship, is not as exciting here. But there's still a few storylines. I mean, you look at your Drizzies and your Marleys picking up points here and there, muddling along, and then Kieran trying to go for the big wins. So there still isn't some interest here, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably the little lack of interest in this championship fight and the division itself is probably because the field is clearly more spaced out than a Division 1 or a Division 2. They have pretty much 20 drivers within one sector just trying to survive while going forward into hairpins, which probably isn't always the smartest thing to do, but yeah. Kieran seems to have the control right now, but I would count someone out like It's Bright, despite him only being net P3 in the championship, because I think he's on pure pace maybe even better than Kieran. So if he gets his act together, I'm pretty sure he can give him a challenge. And if we have 2 drivers pretty close on pace and on points. That will definitely give the division a little push in probably views also on Twitch, but also for us to have a look at them like, hey, this is a good championship fight, like we had in Division 4 last season. Chappers was leading the way after the half of the season, and then Andrew started driving quick. And we suddenly had a great championship fight up until Brazil. Andrew took the crown, obviously. But yeah, midfield. Not close all the time as of on track battles, but definitely on points. I mean, there are 4 cars within half a point. I mean, that's definitely a very interesting one. So I can't wait how this goes on. And yeah, also a close fight between Ferrari and McLaren in the constructors. So I guess we have to see who comes out on top there. So it's pretty much McLaren versus Ferrari and Kieran versus its Bright.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. But then we've got to talk about something that's more pressing than anything else. It's the F2 Championship. There is nothing better than the F2 Championship. There really isn't. And I mean, this week was no exception, was it?
No, I mean F2 just delivers. Whatever you do, it delivers non-stop. I mean, in the sprint, it was distant bar, who, don't ask me how, hasn't led a single sector in this sprint race, because he passed me in the final sector, middle of the final sector, and at the end won by 42 thousandths of a second. So not a too boring race, I have to say. Blade came third, with Valkyrie in fourth. Partig in his first ever F2 race, P5. Brandsteband's Nathan and yourself that are rounding out the points with pole and fastest lap. Surprise, surprise to Blade. So he definitely likes Abu Dhabi, I feel. So he also decided to win the feature race. So not a bad idea from him there. Distant Bard and Gibson for MP completing the podium with me in fourth. You, if I remember correctly, didn't have a setup because the game is just beautiful. So you only picked up 8 points from the feature race, with Valkyrie ahead of you in fifth, and behind that Partig, Nathan, FSM, and Tweaky Scorpion. Well, what does this to the championship pretty much? I mean, this now means I'm leading by 1 point from Blade and 3 points from you, with Gibson 4 points behind. And Distant Bard around 2 race wins in a feature, so around 40 points for him. So yeah, we've got 4 people within 4 points. I think there can't be much better than this.
No, it's so exciting. It's what I look forward to every Wednesday, to be fair. It really is. It really is quite exciting, and I can't wait for it to run all the way towards the end of the season, really. But that is all we've got time for this week on the GRL podcast. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us go over all the comings and goings in Abu Dhabi, and we'll be back for the Hungarian Grand Prix podcast next week. But from me and Atom, it's a goodbye.